Hello and a very happy new year. Today I'm going to be taking a look at The Krotons, which coincidentally just so happens to originally air over the new year leading from 1968 right on into 1969. Nice. Yes, that means I specifically engineered the last half a dozen or so reviews so that this one would come out over New Year's the same time the original serial came out. It was entirely unnecessary, and it meant that at one point I had to crunch 5 reviews in 5 days, and I even had to put my downtime review on YouTube midweek between 2 normal reviews. But hey, I just think it's neat that the times line up. And if you're like 90% of my audience, you're not even watching this when the video was originally uploaded, so you're likely very confused. Hello future people, I hope all is well. The Krotons is a humble little 4-part story from, as I said, the beginning of 1969. The 4th serial of the 6th season, I was ready for the incredible quality of the last few serials to plummet when I heard about this one's reputation. Nobody ever talks about the Krotons. Heck, even in the special features on the DVD, there's an excerpt from Jamie's actor Fraser Hines in which he mentions that nobody was particularly fond of the story, and it was apparently quite last minute, being written up in order to replace a different cancelled serial. And we all know how that's turned out before. Yeah, you didn't really think I'd forgotten about this one, did you? Ugh. Well, with all that in mind, it was miraculous to see how well it all came together. Seriously, even if I didn't know this was a last-minute addition to the lineup, I would have still thought it was pretty good. It works remarkably as its own standalone adventure with absolutely no references to prior or upcoming events. Quite often this season we'll see small elements of previous stories bleed on through into the start of the next adventure, but here it begins with the TARDIS landing and ends with the TARDIS disembarking. There's no unit, no holdovers from the invasion, no mentions of Professor Travers. It's its own thing. And I think that's cool. I actually really wish I had watched this one back in the day when I first started collecting classic Doctor Who DVDs, because it would have been so easy to just pick up and watch without any other prior knowledge of companions and scenarios. Anyway, it's a simple plot. A humanoid race known as the Gonds are being ruled over by the unseen, tyrannical Krotons. Again, sounds like a breakfast cereal. The Gonds are being lied to about their history and are completely unaware that for generations, every single one of their species that has been selected to hang out with the Krotons have inevitably been killed. Kinda similar to cyber conversion, or the scenario with Salamander lying to the underground bunker in The Enemy of the World. Like, quite similar to that situation, actually. Yeah, both Salamander's bunker people and the Gonds are being convinced that the outside world is scorned and is a toxic wasteland you can't go to, so you gotta obey the leaders, or, you know, what else are you gonna do? Die? So, it's not the most original. Heck, the generic, borderline bad sci-fi naming conventions of the Krotons and the Gonds are just... no. Ask a kid, what do you want to name an alien race? Krotons. Gond. Big Kreb. Just sounds a bit too Star Trek-y, so can't really take him seriously. The writers did come up with this quite clever idea, actually, where the Krotons harvested the mental energy of intelligent people to use as a kind of power source to fast-track their physical development and evolution, or something like that. Sure, it doesn't make logical sense, but it's one of those sci-fi things that isn't so outrageous that you can't buy into it. Ultimately, it's a decent time, helped out by the modest runtime. I didn't fall asleep once while watching this 4-parter. There's a few notable moments that make you raise an eyebrow, like, that doesn't quite add up. For instance, the Doctor surviving a massive chunk of concrete high ceiling falling on him, meanwhile someone standing just off to the side gets a bit of rubble on their foot and dies instantly. Or the incredible moment when finally, after all these years, a villain finally thinks to themselves, should we, maybe destroy the Doctor's weird time machine box, you think? And proceeds to disintegrate the TARDIS. Oh my goodness, the TARDIS is dead. What a monumentous occasion, the likes of which we've never seen and likely never will again. Except, not really, because it immediately rematerializes a few feet away. Because of course the Doctor has some kind of security system to prevent the TARDIS from taking damage. You know, except for the time that it was completely submerged underwater, but conjecture, semantics, hearsay, objection, Your Honor. Speaking of the Krotons themselves, not as goofy a design as I was expecting, although please, anyone should know that if your creature design or costume has loose bits bobbing about on springs, that looks terrible. Never, ever do that. Stay far away from springs. The Krotons do quite a bit of disintegrating here. It's not as violent as the Dominator's method, but they do it a lot more. Like, a lot of people are just getting disintegrated left, right, and centre. It's funny how literally every single Doctor Who villain just uses a fire extinguisher as a weapon. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean totally legitimate deadly laser beam. The Daleks, Cybermen, Yeti, Krotons, Chumbly. At least the Ice Warriors just straight up shot people. I think. I don't quite remember. Were there fire extinguishers in the Ice Warriors? Guess we'll find out next week. Wink, wink. Anyways, back to the Krotons. They're pretty useless, admittedly. They can't see in light, which is pretty contrived, but at least their voice is pretty cool. Heck, they sound more like Cybermen than the recently redesigned Cybermen, just with thick South African accents. We are going to use your intelligence to do stuff. Error, there is no brain power here. You are dumb. Last two pieces of useless information I want to mention. First up, the Doctor uses his fob watch or watch on a keychain to hypnotise somebody for the first time since the War Machines. Oh yeah, remember Dobby? Frickin' Dobby! I found out about what happens to her, like, after the events of the show and, like, the expanded universe, and bleeding heck, that's horrifying. And secondly, this little nitpick that's kind of rearing its ugly head for the first time since, like, William Hartnell's era is basically the overly loud sound effect, but this time we get the worst overly loud sound effect. The beeping sound that the Krotons' War of the Worlds, Star Wars Return of the Jedi vacuum cleaner ice piece looking thing makes is so blisteringly loud. Like, I actually muted my headphones and just put on subtitles for a few minutes. Like, it was bad. But that's honestly the worst I can say about it. The Krotons, while certainly not the best, is easily a fairly good time. A nice standalone adventure that you don't have to watch as part of a series of episodes or anything. You just watch it outside of a marathon and have a perfectly fine time. Like, I wouldn't even be opposed to watching it again sometime. I mean, sure, it won't be my first choice, but it's more than I can say about some other ones. Fairy from the Deep. Sorry. And there we have it, the first review of 2023 done and dusted. I hope it's going to be a good year, only time will tell. Tune in next week where our old friends, the Ice Warriors, return in the Seeds of Death. I'm not going to talk like that the whole time, it's going to get annoying.